Former ADOR CEO Hee-jin, best known as the producer of NewJeans, has filed a series of civil lawsuits against malicious commenters over the past year. Now, court rulings so far reveal a consistent but cautious approach by judges. While some comments are deemed unlawful insults requiring compensation, others are dismissed as merely harsh expressions of opinion. So, I don't know if you remember, in March, Judge An Hyun-jin of the Seoul-centric District Court ordered 4 out of 8 defendants to pay damages ranging from 50,000 to 100,000 won each. The harshest comment, just 3 words, crazy B, B meaning bitch, resulted in the highest award of 100,000 won. Other remarks, including I want to punch her, sorry for laughing, or trash B word and psycho B word, led to compensation of 50,000 won each. But 4 defendants escaped liability, with the court ruling that comments like cunning B word carried only relatively minor contempt and did not constitute a clear violation of personal rights. While Hee-jin herself had sought 300,000 won? Yeah, 300,000 won per person. The damages awarded were much smaller. Both sides accepted the judgment without appeal, making the ruling final. Now, fast forward. Let me clarify. Hee-jin had sought 3 million Korean won per person. But the damages awarded were much smaller, like 50,000 or 100,000 won. But yeah, both sides accepted the judgment without appeal, making the ruling final. Now, fast forward to August, 5 months later, and another case reached a different court, the Seoul Western District Court this time. And this time, Hee-jin had narrowed her target to 3 commenters, again asking for 3 million Korean won each. The court reached a similar but even stricter conclusion. So here's an exclusive article that was released on August 26th of 2025. So actually today. It says, NewJeans mom, Hee-jin, files a wave of lawsuits against malicious commenters. Here's where she won and lost. Herald Economy. Reporter An Se-yeon. Hee-jin, the former ADOR CEO who clashed with HYBE over management control, has received mixed rulings in the damage suits she filed against malicious commenters. Out of 3 defendants, only 1 was ordered to pay damages. According to the legal community, on the 26th of August, Judge Yoo Dong-gyun of the Seoul Western District Court, Civil Division 3, ruled on Hee-jin's lawsuit, demanding 3 million Korean won per person from 3 individuals. The court dismissed her claims against 2 of them while recognizing liability for 1 person, but set the compensation at 300,000 won, not 3 million. The case traces back to April of last year, when a management dispute erupted between HYBE and Hee-jin. During that time, she held 2 press conferences. Her casual speech, attire, and heated tone became a hot topic. Some commenters left insulting remarks under related news articles and were sued. Hee-jin filed lawsuits against a total of 11 people, later withdrawing 8 cases and pursuing 3. In court, she argued that the insults and defamation had caused her emotional distress and demanded 3 million Korean won in damages from each. The court dismissed the claims against 2 defendants. Their comments were, "You run into these kinds of bastards in life." And I think the article crossed out the word X. And I think by that, it could be bastard or it could be the B word, like nyun. And another comment, a bastard or B word is a bastard. Agreed. The judge ruled that considering the wording, context, intent, and the status of the parties, the comments did not rise to the level of an unlawful violation of personal rights. One commenter, however, was ordered to pay 300,000 won in damages. Their remark read, "In the end, just a foul-mouthed thug. 조둥이 험한 양아치." Interesting. So that one was harsher? Interesting. And the court found this to be an insulting and contemptuous personal attack, going beyond the simple expression of opinion and amounting to a degrading emotional outburst, thereby justifying compensation. Interesting, okay. Now, this was not the first time Hee-jin partially prevailed, the article says. Back in March, she won limited damages in a similar suit against about 10 commenters. In that case, just 3 words, crazy B-word, resulted in 100,000 won in damages. Comments such as, "I want to punch her," trash B-word, and psycho B-word were deemed to merit 50,000 won each, while cunning B-word was dismissed. So that was a summary of what happened back in March. So that was the article just released yesterday, exclusive piece. So taken together, the March and August rulings highlight how South Korean courts are drawing a line, although that line could be arbitrary. So drawing a line between outright contemptuous insults and coarse expressions of personal opinion. Judges have consistently recognized liability when comments cross into personal or degrading attacks. But they have also shown reluctance to punish every harsh or offensive remark. Now, for Hee-jin, the legal strategy has yielded partial vindication, but modest payouts. Like, while she has succeeded in proving that some online comments were unlawful, courts have kept damages low, signaling an intent to balance freedom of expressions with protection of reputation. With several lawsuits still ongoing, observers expect future rulings to follow the same cautious pattern. Like selective recognition of liability, symbolic compensation, and a careful distinction between insult and opinion. Now, the compensation has remained symbolic at best. Small sums like 30,000 won here, 51,000 there, and 100,000 here. And then this time, the highest amount was 300,000 won here, there. So that stands in stark contrast to the large damages she originally sought, which was 3 million Korean won. So it naturally raises the question, why does she keep turning to lawsuits despite the limited financial outcome? I mean, obviously she's not going to be making fortunes with these compensations, but to understand that, it helps to look back a bit further. Because this isn't the first time Hee-jin has wielded legal action as a shield. Long before her clash with HYBE and the courtroom battles of 2025 or 2024, she was already drawing lines with commenters during the debut era of NewJeans. So I don't know if you remember, back in 2022 and 2023, when NewJeans, the group, was first gaining attention, ADOR, Hee-jin's ADOR, signaled a strong stance against malicious posts. And at the height of controversy over the song Cookie, and even earlier when Hee-jin's personal Instagram post and her portfolio sparked accusations of Lolita imagery. So the company made it clear that it would not tolerate defamatory or suggestive remarks. ADOR issued a public notice stating that evidence collected through fan submissions and internal monitoring would be handed directly to lawyers, and there would be no leniency or settlements for those targeted. Now, isn't it super ironic that at the time, the journalists who wrote about these accusations, pervert or Lolita accusations, was none other than the Lee Sun-myung. Yeah, at the time, Lee Sun-myung wrote an article against Hee-jin. But now that Hee-jin became an enemy of HYBE, I guess the phrase is true. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. I thought that was pretty ironic. Anyways, and the song Cookie, the lyrics became very controversial, given that the cookie could carry that certain sexual innuendo and connotation, and NewJeans members, some of them were minors at the time. Now, after ADOR made that announcement, the impact was immediate across online communities in Korea, especially women-focused forums. Users began posting lawsuit confirmation messages, like screenshots of police summons, phone call accounts, and notice of investigation. Like some people admitted to leaving extreme comments linking Hee-jin to inappropriate sexual themes. Others insisted they had only posted relatively mild remarks, only to be surprised by police contact. And that led to another wave of debate, like accusations that Hee-jin's ADOR was selectively targeting women, countered by those who argued that any lawsuit-worthy comments must have been beyond ordinary criticism. And the controversy surrounding cookies, or the cookie, and the imagery of Hee-jin's Instagram photos and her past projects, like even going back to her SM entertainment era, created a toxic swirl of speculation, and lawsuits became her primary tool of defense. And in hindsight, I think the 2023 cookie era lawsuits were the first demonstration of Hee-jin's readiness to use the legal system, not just to protect NewJeans, but to protect herself from personal attacks. In other words, MHA is deliberately using the legal system to send a message. And this wasn't just noticed by fans or online communities. It caught the attention of lawyers too at the time. So, at the time, a criminal defense attorney named An Young-jin wrote a blog post analyzing what was happening. He pointed out that many of the malicious comments tied to Cookie and Hee-jin's Instagram post were serious enough to trigger both defamation and insult charges under Korean law. Like comments that directly labeled her a pedophile or said she had Lolita tendencies weren't just rude, they risked criminal penalties, the lawyer said. And under Korea's Criminal Act, defamation through a statement of fact, even if true, can be punished with up to 2 years in prison, while false statements carry even heavier penalties. And simple insult cases, if deemed severe, can still lead to jail time or fines. The lawyer explained that for ordinary netizens, once a large entertainment company hires a law firm to file these complaints, the playing field is uneven. And even first-time offenders could easily end up with a criminal record and a fine, which then opens the door to civil suits for damages. So in other words, a single comment could create a double burden: criminal punishment followed by financial liability. He also highlighted something important, why some commenters ended up being cleared. And the deciding factor was specificity. Like if someone wrote, pedophilia is evil, in a general sense, without tying it directly to Hee-jin, prosecutors could conclude that the comment wasn't targeting a specific individual, and thus didn't meet the legal threshold for insult or defamation. But if the comment said Hee-jin is a pedophile, or even implied that she was connected to such tendencies, that crossed the line into a punishable personal attack, according to this lawyer. The blog post also offered practical advice, like for commenters who were unlikely to win a complete dismissal. The next best outcome was a suspension of indictment, also known as 기소유예 in Korean. And that's when prosecutors acknowledged that a crime technically occurred, but decided not to pursue charges, often because the defendant is a first-time offender, or shows remorse, or reaches some form of agreement with the victim. And in such cases, no criminal record remains, making it the most realistic goal for ordinary netizens caught up in lawsuits like these. Finally, the lawyer warned that people in certain professions, like civil servants, public enterprise employees, or teachers, face an additional layer of risk. Because criminal investigations against them would automatically be reported to their workplaces, even a suspended indictment could trigger disciplinary action. And for them, strategic legal defense wasn't just about avoiding a fine, it was about protecting their careers. Now, seen from today's perspective, this legal commentary helps explain why NewJeans lawsuits became such a shockwave in online communities back then. It was about the very real possibility that an offhand comment could spiral into police summons, fines, and professional consequences. And it illustrates why NewJeans' approach to malicious comments has remained so consistent. Once you have taken that first step of using the law aggressively, it sets a precedent for how you deal with every controversy that follows. But here's the thing: NewJeans' willingness to threaten legal action wasn't confined to anonymous commenters or online communities. In October 2024, during the height of her corporate clash with HYBE, she directed her legal and PR teams, McCall consulting firm and Hee-jin law firm, to pressure journalists as well. When Sports Today reported, and to specific journalist named Yoon Hae-young, when they reported on court documents suggesting that NewJeans' own lawyers had privately called the plagiarism case against HYBE's rookie girl group, Islet, ambiguous, 표절은 애매, NewJeans' side erupted. Her PR agency, McCall Consulting Firm, demanded the article be deleted, calling it malicious editing and falsehood. And they went further, threatening legal consequences if the story remained online. The problem was, the report was based on official materials disclosed in a court hearing. The newspaper stood by its reporting, pointing out that the documents had been made public in legitimate proceedings. Now, what followed was a strange back and forth. NewJeans' team first claimed that the subject of plagiarism is ambiguous, was not Islet at all. And then later admitted it referred to Islet, but argued that the ambiguity lay in whether the case could succeed legally, not whether plagiarism occurred. Now, to critics, this episode highlights a familiar pattern. Like NewJeans' camp presented its claims as unshakable facts while dismissing anything that cast doubt on her case as false, malicious, or illegal. And the very act of threatening journalists with lawsuits over ordinary reporting showed just how far she was willing to extend her legal posture beyond online commenters and into the realm of the press. That is, the fact that journalists were threatened with lawsuits over standard reporting showed how far NewJeans' legal strategy extended. Not just commenters, but the media itself. Now, by 2025, this aggressive stance had become a hallmark of her public image. But here's where the story takes on a sharper layer of irony. Because while NewJeans has positioned herself in the court as a victim of online insults and defamation, she herself has been formally sanctioned for abusive behavior inside her own company, ADOR, when she was a CEO. In March 2005, Korea's Ministry of Employment and Labor concluded that some of NewJeans' remarks toward a former ADOR employee referred to as Person A, 여직원 A, constituted workplace harassment. The agency issued her a fine, citing language that went beyond acceptable managerial boundaries and inflicted both psychological and workplace harm. ADOR itself was also fined because NewJeans, who was then the CEO of the company, had failed to uphold the company's legal duty to investigate sexual harassment claims impartially. The case had first surfaced in August 2024 when the person A accused Hee-jin of verbally abusing her, it was a female employee, and mishandling a sexual harassment complaint against a male deputy director, referred to as B. And the labor office later determined that Hee-jin's interventions, including advising the VP on how to, I think it was VP Lee Sang-woo, on how to respond to internal investigations, amounted to a violation of objectivity standards under Korean labor law. And Hee-jin has denied wrongdoing and is pursuing a formal appeal, arguing that her words were misinterpreted and that the law was misapplied. Now, this controversy, kind of dovetailed with the July 2004 Dispatch investigation that shed an unflattering light on Hee-jin's language and leadership style. Like, the report cited Kakao Talk messages and testimony suggesting that she hurled profanities at employees, telling, one, life is real B word, and dismissing a female employee who filed a harassment complaint with comments like women who work like trash and then report things like this. And she was even quoted as encouraging a male executive to file counterclaims rather than protecting the women who had raised concerns. And according to Dispatch, the woman eventually resigned, the female employee A, while the male executive received only a warning. Like, these accounts directly undercut Hee-jin's public image as a fiercely protective NewJeans mom. On one hand, she was quick to sue strangers online for calling her a thug or a psycho. On the other, she was accused of using language at work that was far more violent and degrading. Language that government authorities agreed crossed the line into workplace bullying. Although, who knows? I don't know if she actually used the language in public or only in a private conversation. But that was a decision that the government authorities made. Now, the story isn't over because the same former employee A has since filed a civil lawsuit seeking over 100 million Korean won in damages from Hee-jin, alleging defamation and reputational harm tied to Hee-jin's handling of the sexual harassment case. Now, the lawsuit has already stretched through 2 hearings in 2005, with the third now postponed to October, according to this exclusive article by TV Daily that was released on August 25th, 2005. I don't know why they included this silhouette image looking like a male person, while the employee is a female. I don't know why they did that. Anyways, so the lawsuit has already stretched through 2 hearings in 2005, but the third one is now postponed to October. So with both sides refusing to budge, the battle is set to drag on for months, if not years. We'll have to see. Now, all of this complicates Hee-jin's narrative as a victim of abuse. Like, her lawsuits against malicious commenters portray her as someone constantly under siege, unfairly attacked online. Yet, the labor office's ruling and the ongoing civil case suggest that she was capable of deploying abusive, dismissive language herself. And this time, not against faceless commenters, but against employees working under her, and even against NewJeans members in private conversations. Now, that tension between Hee-jin as a victim in one arena and as a perpetrator in another is at the heart of why her story provokes such polarized reactions. Because, I don't know, I guess for some people, her lawsuits represent a necessary pushback against toxic online culture. And because, in general, I encourage everybody to stay classy even when criticizing someone. I think it's absolutely possible to stay classy even when you criticize someone heavily. But for others, these accounts highlight hypocrisy, raising the question of whether Hee-jin is willing to hold herself to the same standards of respect and dignity she demands from other people. So here's your question. Can NewJeans' legal battles against malicious commenters be taken at face value? Or do the accusations of workplace abuse undermine her credibility? And more broadly, where should we draw the line between harsh words, legitimate criticism, and truly unlawful harm? I would love to hear from you guys, so you're welcome to leave comments. But when you do so, as always, let's stay positive, respectful, and classy. Thank you guys. I hope this was informative or interesting. All right? Peace and love. Bye-bye.